Hey, everybody, welcome back to Autism Confidential, the podcast from the National Council on Severe Autism. I'm Jill Escher. I'm the president of NCSA. Very glad to be back on the podcast today. We will be talking about one of my very, very, very favorite topics in all of autism. I can't believe here we are. We're almost at 50 episodes, and I still haven't addressed this topic. Which I love so much. I think, when Tom and I did a little bit of guitar playing together, that's as close as we got to this topic. Today, we're going to talk about musical talent among our friends with severe and profound autism. I have several friends, and I know we have some mutual friends, I'm saying to my guest, who have, pretty disabling autism, minimally verbal, really need a lot of help with daily living skills, but have extraordinary musical talent. I'm a huge fan of many of them. And I'm a groupie. Actually, I go to like all their shows that I possibly can. So is my daughter, Sophie. And I'm in awe of them. And today we're going to be talking to the mother of one of these musical savants. And and the word savant, well, let's talk about the word savant later. Because they say savantism is very rare. I'm like, no, because in my experience, not so rare when it comes to music. I've been shocked to see how many of our friends have this potential. And sometimes we don't even know about it. Okay. Who is my guest today, and why am I blabbing about this? My guest today is Rosanne Katon Walden. She's the mother of Adam Mandela Walden, who is a young man who is a cello savant and has a significant form of autism. Hello, Roseanne.
Hi.
So glad to be talking to you today about such a wonderful topic. And we've had a long series of very, very serious episodes. Not that this isn't a serious topic, it of course is, but a lot of episodes about very heavy topics. And so it's sort of nice to talk about something that's much more positive, for a change. And what I'm talking to Roseanne, who's currently in Boston, because her son, Adam, is a student at the Berklee College of Music. And if you people know anything about musical education, it's a very prestigious school of music that mints a lot of professional musicians. People who are jazz musicians, rock musicians, classical musicians. A lot of them have gone to Berklee. Maybe fewer classical, but really an amazing school. I've known some people who've gone there with just insane talent. Now, I don't usually do long introductions, as you know, on this podcast. I usually just hop right to it. I have to read a little bit of Adam's bio to let you guys understand, right, who he is and what Roseanne will be talking about. Okay, so pardon me before I get to Roseanne. Adam Mandela Walden was born in Los Angeles, California, where I was born. When he was 18 months old, he stopped talking, and by the age of 3, he was diagnosed with moderate to severe autism and epilepsy. At the age of 2, he taught himself to play the harmonica, and without any usable language, was able to sing opera phonetically. And that means he's probably singing in Italian or German, which is amazing. He seemed to have an easier time understanding what was said to him if it was sung. So interesting. At age 6, his Special Olympics coach started to teach him the violin. That in itself is super interesting. Adam was so excited to learn that he kept running around the room during the lesson. So we sat him in a chair, put a little cello between his legs, and Adam fell in love. Soon after, he was diagnosed as having savant syndrome by Dr. Oliver Sacks and Dr. Daryl Treffert. Okay, I could go on. I'm not going to go through this whole thing. It is amazing. And it tells about all of his achievements he's had over the years in music, and how he went to a school in LA for performing arts, and played in the orchestra, and he's played in many festivals. He's studied with, famous people. He's played at the Hollywood Bowl. I mean, he is amazing. So hello, Roseanne. Sorry for that long
Hi.
introduction. So glad to be talking to you. I have so many questions. I hardly know where to start. But you're from. We talked a little bit before we started recording. Your mom, you're from New York City. You don't have a background in music, right? I want to know, what were you thinking when you saw him playing harmonica, when you saw him singing opera phonetically, when he was able at a young age to play violin? What were you thinking? What was going through your head?
Well, I'm not a musician, and I'm notoriously bad at that. However, I was in the performing arts, and so I knew musicians. And I remember we were all in a Chinese restaurant, and Adam was in a high chair, and he had gotten a harmonica. And while we were all talking, Adam pulled out his harmonica and started playing the blues. And everyone just kind of like stopped. And we're like, okay. And he then put it down and then, started eating his food again. And it's very, very interesting because, excuse me, Adam's doing his echolalia. I'm hoping you
Hi,
can
Adam.
hear him.
I can hear him. It's okay.
Okay, Adam, no echolalia, okay? Okay. He's doing a script from something. I'm not sure what.
Oh, well, autism's allowed on this podcast, so it's fine.
Oh, okay. Okay, but what the first thing I did was I got him a record player from like Goodwill, and all the records I could find, and I just gave it to him. And
Wow.
he would just like play. And it was funny, after a while, we realized he really loved classical stuff, but he also loved Pete Seeger. He adored Pete Seeger records. And I remember once I was walking by his room, and Pete Seeger has an old song about unions that's kind of like a rap that he did like in the 30s. And I could hear Adam saying that. And I thought, if he can do that, he might be able to speak one day. But because it was done with the background of the music and all of that. And so basically we just did one step at a time. And I went to lots of pawn shops and bought, kind of sad instruments really cheap. And I'd bring them home, and Adam would like play with them. And within, like an hour or so, he was making music, some kind of music out of them. He would figure out how to make the music from it.
Amazing.
And it's really, because for me, I kind of see the way that Adam learns and approaches music is the way that my daughter learned and approached language. Like first you do babbling and that whole thing. Yeah. And Adam never did any of that with language.
But he was imitating music. He found a way.
But he's kind of babbling with the instruments that I gave him. It was very, very, very interesting to me. And when we had this wonderful Special Olympics coach, and she said, Adam's very musical. She said, I play the violin. I'd like to teach him. We got him a little violin. But Adam would do a victory lap every time he plucked something. And so we said, okay, how can we fix this? And I saw in a pawn shop a little cello. And so I bought the little cello from the pawn shop and brought it home. And I think I sent you a picture. That was the first day that Adam got his cello. He's sitting with the woman who literally, started him on the journey.
Wow, that's just what a story. You sometimes hear of these people, and again, I know several of them who teach themselves, at least initially, teach themselves music. I have a friend who plays guitar very well. He doesn't read a note of music. He's never taken a guitar lesson, but he can pick up his guitar, and I actually have two friends who play guitar just like this. They're very significantly autistic, but they can find the notes and they'll put together a song. And sometimes, like, I was sitting with a friend of mine, he's a young man with autism, he's so sweet, and he was sitting there playing Stairway to Heaven. I mean, this is not an easy song, right? And he had pieced it together. Now, and I know the song myself because I play a little guitar, and he wasn't playing it the way Jimmy Page plays it, but it still sounded amazing, right? Because he learned by ear. So I'm curious, did he have, does Adam have perfect pitch? Is he
Yeah.
one of those guys?
In fact, if you Google autism and perfect pitch, one of the articles that comes up has Adam's face in it on the article.
Oh, really? Okay.
They did. Yeah. One of the things that I have done with Adam is that whenever there are non-invasive studies, I always put him into the study because I find that I learn a lot more from the process of him being in a study and from the researchers that are studying him than I do from his doctors, who are the best doctors I can find. But I get more insight as to how I can guide him in certain ways. Like Adam was in the mirror neuron study that was done at UC San Diego with V.S. Ramachandran.
Yeah.
And what I learned from that, because I knew they told me that his mirror neurons only work 50% of the time. And everyone else's mirror neurons work when you watch somebody do something, and they also work when the same ones light up when you try to do that. If you ever try to do that in your life, okay? His only light up when he tries to do it. So I think, oh, that means that we've all had millions of dress rehearsals in our brain that Adam doesn't have access to.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so one of the things, I don't know if you've seen that photograph, you can see Adam, instead of sitting opposite the young lady that's teaching him, he's sitting next to her, because Adam really can't learn from her when he's sitting opposite her. He can't look at what she's doing that way. But if he's sitting next to her, he can do it. He can't flip it over the way that we do. Like if we were if you're having a guitar lesson and your guitar teacher is opposite you and doing this, and you're trying to follow him, at this point, Adam still can't do that. But if he's sitting next to the teacher, he can, he can do that. So those are the kinds of things that you kind of find out that I learned from the mirror neuron thing, is that there's something about the way Adam is receiving information that makes it difficult for him.
So in his training, like, obviously you cultivated this talent that you detected very early, obviously, and he went to a special school in LA.
Oh, he cultivated it himself. I mean, we didn't have a choice. And literally, Adam like played all day. There was music on all day. If you turned on the radio, he would just stop and stand. He was a whirlwind because he had ADD, and so he was like all over the place. But if you turn the radio on, he just like stop and listen. And the kind of things we found out, like we found out totally by accident he could read music.
I was just about to ask you that. So he can read.
But we found out totally by accident. I had gotten him into a summer program in Philadelphia, right? And they said, oh, we have a lot of kids that are Suzuki, so he doesn't have to be able to read. So I go, fine, okay. So we go there. Of course, he's the only autistic kid, but he's in a class with these other like 8-year-olds, and they're like virtuoso, And so I'm like, oh, this is going to be a mess. And Adam, like, he pushed his glasses up and he looked at it and he started playing the part. And what we had to do then is go to his speech teacher, and we had to teach him what the names of the notes were. He could see the pattern.
He could see the pattern. He intuited that pattern.
And he was able, and he knew where it was on, because he's so imprinted with where everything is on the neck of the cello, that he was able to look at it and he could play. And that's when we found out he could read music. And so then what we did is we really started to in his speech classes. We did a lot of speech classes about A flat, B flat, because he needed to learn.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. And the other thing that's kind of strange is that Adam's expressive language, his articulation is excellent. His receptive language is practically nil. He is guessing at everything we say to him, which is, when he was little, it was really, we used to sing to him all the time. And it was funny because my husband said, "Oh, this is like Mighty Mouse." The Mighty Mouse cartoon was always a little opera. And that was what, in our house, when we would talk to him, we would sing. And
it's time to put on your pajamas.
My favorite story is I got him into a mixed preschool that had a special ed teacher working with a typical teacher, right? And so I got him in there. And one day I came to pick him up, and everyone was waiting for me, and they with big smiles on their faces. So I thought, what happened? They said, "Well, you know how Adam hates to take naps." I'm like, yeah. They said, "Well, we were carrying him to the cot, and he started singing 'We Shall Overcome.'"
Oh,
and I was like, how did he know it was a protest song? And I tell you, he loved Pete Seeger. And so, there's this, it's like everything that has to do with music finds the place where it belongs in his brain, in a way that other things that in our brain we finds a place to go doesn't happen for him.
Well, let me ask you, does he understand music theory?
Yes, well, this is we never know what he can do. So when we got to Berklee, it's like, oh, music theory. I had no idea if it was going to be able to. I didn't know if it was going to last a week at Berklee, So we're going. And at first, I have to tell you, it was really bumpy at first. It was, and there was like even a teacher that like went on a campaign to get him kicked out of the school. And this is with Adam having the best behavior I have ever seen. His behavior was which was something I had been worried about, but he was so happy to be there. And so
kicked out of school because of his behaviors?
Well, this is one, and this teacher told a lot of lies, but it turned out he had done it with other students. And he just did not like the idea of Adam being in the school. Between you and me, I think he was a little spectrumy to begin with. And I think it kind of, pressed a couple of buttons in him. But what happened, a lot of the teachers by then were invested. This is early on. They were like, I see there's something going on in this kid. So we had this big meeting, and one of the teachers said, I know Adam's problem. He knows all the correct answers. He doesn't understand the question. So that was like this big bell went off. That's what we need to do. We need the first step of every single lesson should be for us to make sure that Adam understands the question, which means whoever's helping him or me before, during, or after class, because we tape the lectures, if he doesn't understand a question, we'll rephrase it 10 different ways. We'll draw a picture of it. We'll do whatever, because once he understands what the question is, he knows what the answer is.
Okay. So, sorry, my phone. Yeah, so if they're saying what's the relative minor? He'll know that.
Yeah, no problem. Now, no problem at all. Now, I mean, and what happens but the thing that I don't understand is that we see all of this learning that is in a fashion as if it were typical person learning, but it's only in this narrow music field.
Okay.
It literally does not generalize.
It doesn't generalize to learning how to
just real It literally
that part of his brain is on fire.
That part of his brain is like a highway. It's kind of, I was when I talk to people, I'm trying to explain it. I said, like sometimes they have these lobsters and they have like one little claw and this one gigantic claw in the front claw. I said, that's a little bit like Adam with his music. And it doesn't, I don't know how to make it transfer And it doesn't. I think there might be a little tiny bit of generalization that goes on, but it's really, I think that only happens if at some point something happens that has to do with music that allows his brain to, move that into another area. But now he's got such a basis in, for instance, music theory. He's taken music theory 1, 2, 3 and passed it. Sometimes he has to take it twice because he really can't, it's just too much, figuring out what the question is for us.
But how does he articulate his answers? Is he
He just answers it.
Is he uses words? Or
well,
it
depends.
Is he writing?
It depends. If it's an essay, he has to type. And if it's he types.
And he can do that.
He can type. He can type and then he reads it. That's what he likes. He doesn't like the voice on the communication machines.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for some reason that bothers him. So he does essays. I mean, and I'll look through it and I'll say, Adam, you need a verb in this sentence, or we need at least 7 words in each sentence, and we'll literally count out the words, and he'll do it. And it takes a long time, but he doesn't know that it takes other people less time to do it. And so one of the things that Berklee has been wonderful about is that he is classified as a full-time student taking only 7 credits a semester.
Okay, so he's taking a slow road at Berklee then.
He's taking a slow road, but he's taking it in, and because we had that problem with one teacher early on, well, the process we use is that if Adam, let's say, needs to learn counterpoint, or let's say, like conducting, what happens is they go to the chair, and the chair puts out a letter, an email to all of the people who teach that, and says, who wants to teach the profoundly autistic student? There's always 1 or 2 teachers that want to do it. And when they say they want to do it, and the one thing I tell them, I say, you can't make any mistakes. There are no experts. You will be the expert.
Right.
And
so it's a highly adapted curriculum for him.
And not the curriculum, the way it is administered.
Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm. The curriculum is the same, but the way it is administered is different. Okay. And for instance, in Massachusetts, we use something called the Echo Pen. And the Echo Pen, you can click it, because Adam always has to have somebody with him because he's a big eloper. That's another one. Adam can disappear like nobody's business. I mean, I literally have a poster of Houdini on our door right now, literally.
Yes, I know our Houdinis here in the Bay Area, more than a few of them.
Yeah, and so he always has someone with him. And so what we do is when the teacher's having a lecture, we press the Echo Pen. The Echo Pen, you can either print it out, and then Adam cannot silent read, but he can read out loud. I don't know why. No one can explain to me why he can't silent read, but he can read out loud. It's
okay.
And I think it has something to do with the fact that his receptive language is so poor.
Okay.
There's all this I mean, it's really the savant skill is really a splinter. It's really a splinter skill. Mm-hmm. And there's a little bit of crossover, but not that much. So what happens? We get that, we bring it home, we print it out. He reads it out loud. We highlight. He has a book with definitions. He writes out the definitions. And so he's working from 8:30 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, every night, even on the weekends. He's working on this. And that's to do 7 credits. But it takes him that long to do it. But the thing is, he doesn't know it takes the other people less amount of time. It does, that's just what it takes.
So
And
how long
actually,
will he spend at Berklee overall? How many years?
yeah, well, all I have to tell you is that I am so grateful. Berklee has been so amazing for him. And it's the teachers are the professors are so excited
Mm-hmm.
about him that, he's on full scholarship, which, Berkeley is
Oh,
like 50
that
grand a year.
I believe it. Yeah.
And as long as, and he and one of his professors, they collaborated on a symphonic piece based on The Reason I Jump, the book,
Mm.
that book? And
I
we
do,
got the rights to
yeah.
it. We got the rights.
To adapt it into something musical.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
if you go online, if you look up Adam Mandela Walden,
Mm-hmm.
you'll see some excerpts from it, because Adam was chosen to be on From the Top, which is like a very sort of prestigious classical introduction for young classical musicians. And Adam was the first person from Berklee to get on that show that's been around for 60 years.
So did he compose? I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. Did he compose the music?
Yes, he composed the music, and he and his teacher, they worked together.
And when he composed it, he composed it on the cello, or
He
did he
started
write?
piano. Well, he started taking piano
Okay.
at Berklee, and so he takes piano lessons, and so he knows, he takes chords, that he takes counterpoint. Yeah, he's had composition 1 and 2 that he's taken.
Mm.
And he and his teacher, they work together like any other collaborator, and his teacher helps with the orchestrations.
Okay.
And so it's a slow process, but he can do it. One of the things that Adam likes to do when he's composing, especially for this, he
Mm-hmm.
uses something called a looper. And a looper can turns a instrument like the cello
Mm-hmm.
into an ensemble, because you have 5 tracks.
Okay.
And then
So
he'll
he can.
compose the 5 different tracks. Then he'll go on to finale, which is a notation. And
Mm-hmm.
he can notate it. He can do that.
Wow, good for
And
him.
he learned that at Berklee.
Wow.
And
That's
like I said,
incredible.
every time, I didn't know. I mean, I'm thrilled that he can do it, but I did not know that he could do it.
Yeah,
I,
that's
you know,
absolutely amazing that he
he,
can do that and then have the understanding of other instruments, because
yeah,
well, I only knew about his cello skills, but he's been
uh-huh,
able
yeah.
and the
Well, the thing
ensemble.
is that the piano, I mean, he could have been, this all could have been on the piano. And one of the reasons why I'm kind of glad that we kept it in this stringed instrument is that it allowed us to sort of talk from elementary school through high school, the school orchestras, into making sure he was in the orchestra. Because with a piano, you can't do that. And then in terms of people that want to study him, because the piano, it's in tune if the piano's in tune.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Adam is playing an instrument that you can really hear the fact that he has perfect pitch, because it's an instrument that you have to play in tune. He's the person that's playing in tune.
Right.
And it's
Well,
and so
as we
yeah,
know, I mean, the cello, like the violin, there are no frets.
yeah.
Like on the guitar, you have to have the placement, just right to
Yeah.
get the right pitch, you know,
Yeah,
and
it's funny because Adam, even when he was really tiny, he was
mhm,
fearless. He
mhm.
was fearless. We would go to clubs and he'd have his cello, and they'd say, "Does he want to come up and play with us?" And Adam would like run up with his cello, and you'd see him tuning it, and like he was just like, and he'd
Wow.
make up, like he'd make up all of the fingering, and like, his cello teacher would be like, "Oh, I can't look," but it would sound good. you know.
um, so I'd ask you a little bit of a challenging question here, and this
Uh-huh.
is, I would say, I've never met your son. I've seen a little bit on YouTube. I would love to hear more of his music. Hopefully, what we'll do is I will have the producer, splice in some of his music, right? So maybe in the
That'd be great.
beginning or
That would be
at the end,
great.
so people can hear a little bit.
If you just Google his name, Adam Mandela Walden, a lot of
Okay.
stuff will come up.
Okay, good. We will steal a little bit of that to
Mhm.
include. But a question that came up, I remember, with respect to not your son, but with to another autistic savant musician.
Mhm.
It had to do not so much with technical prowess, but more about the emotional depth, given in performance, the emotional interpretation of a piece. Does that come up in his training, that that his performance is one-dimensional or lacks character that may be seen in a performer without autism? Do you ever see anything like that?
I think that because it's a cello, one thing is that there's a very big difference. Adam has a very hard time doing a performance in a lesson with his teacher. And, his teachers now know that you're not going to get a performance level when we're working on it. But the minute he gets on stage, every single note that he was given by the teacher over the period of learning that piece is boom, there. And there's something about the music, something about the better the music is that he's playing, the more the emotion is there. I mean, he plays Schindler's List, he plays The Prayer, he plays, Block's The Player, he really had sometimes he'll play Coy Nadre at two different temples the same night. He'll just go from one to another, and it is there. And it's almost, it's his brain. His brain knows to take that to the emotion part, whereas generally Adam has a really flat affect.
Oh, interesting.
It's very interesting. Huh?
Is he? Do you want to introduce him? Is he
Adam,
available?
Adam, can you come here? Well, let me see if I can.
So
drag
at least
him.
those of you who are watching this on YouTube, you can see Adam.
Adam.
Pardon this little break in our podcast while we search for our cellist.
Say hello to the lady.
Oh, cellist, say hi. I think on another episode, I would love to have some of our friends. Roseanne and I have mutual friends.
Okay, let's go.
Who have children with autism who are great musicians.
Yeah, I'm going to move over here. Why don't you come sit down there?
And there he is, Adam.
Yeah, Adam, don't touch anything. Don't touch anything, Adam. Please don't. Adam, don't touch. Thank you. Okay.
Hi, Adam. I'm Jill. It's nice to meet you. So nice to meet you. I'm so excited to hear about you and to watch you play cello. I got to watch you on YouTube a little bit. It's really amazing. It was great to talk to your mom about your background and all that you're achieving here at Berklee.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're really liking playing at Berklee?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What are you working on now, Adam?
I'm working on practicing my cello.
Oh.
But what project are you
for Mr. Friesen?
Yeah, what is it? What is no?
The new pits.
I know, but what is a big project? That's one of the exercises. But what's the project that you're working on? What did you work on in your last class with Professor?
Oh, seminar.
No,
conducting.
No, not conducting. What did you work on with Professor Friesen? That's the next movement of.
Next movement of
what?
The Reason I Jump.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. And the book is 54 questions and answers. So this could be Adam's life's work. It could be doing
54.
Yeah. Oh, Adam, are you going to say go bye, or you want to say anything else?
I'm okay.
He's
okay. Bye, Adam.
Yeah.
So who is with him when he's in class? You mentioned to me how, he's an eloper.
Someone who was wonderful actually through Easter Seals, because what happened was I found out totally by accident that the regional centers in Los Angeles had a program which they had created for what I guess used to be called high functioning autism. When those kids go to college, that they would provide some support for those kids. They never expected somebody like Adam to get to college. And so we found out about this program, and you had to bring the state to your last 2 IEP meetings before graduation. Okay. So we brought the state, they saw that, and then he got into college. And then we said, look, we fulfilled everything. You have to provide the same level of support that he had in high school. And none of the kids that they had ever done this program before had ever had an aide. And so we got 35 hours a week for
in Boston, though.
In Boston. At first they said no, but then what happened is we were able to prove that this was a college that had accepted him. And then, the whole thing is that if he had had a disciplinary problem and he needed, money to go to a school for discipline, it would have been a lot more than they were providing. And we found out that Easter Seals was getting ready to do something called the College Navigator Program that was supposedly 2 years in the distance. And we came in with, I think the state paid them $100,000. And they started the program right away. And we were able to get someone for 35 hours a week.
Got it. Okay. Is it somebody who's versed in music? I'm curious, or just somebody who's there just to deal with?
Choreographer, but he was not versed in music.
Okay.
And so we did that. And so but Adam needs a lot more hours than 35 hours. So they would do the class stuff. Then I would sit with him and we would go over the lectures, because we would download the lectures and go through that and the homework. And so between the two of us, we got it done. Something wonderful happened though in Massachusetts last year. The outgoing governor did an executive order saying that every college or university that had a brick and mortar building in the state of Massachusetts,
I saw this, yeah,
had to have a program for autistic students. And so the guy that was working with him got offered like for 3 times the amount of money at Harvard to train helpers for their program, because almost all of their high math students, something like 2/3 are on the spectrum. And
oh my gosh.
And I said, well, what are they like? He said, well, there's a lot of selective mutism. There's a lot, there's a lot of that stuff going on. And so he's training people, for them. But right now, no one, that there's a dearth of people to work.
Yes, we know.
So now in Massachusetts, it's even less. And so I've been doing this, but fortunately, Adam is like in such a routine now that it's a lot better than it would have been had this happened the first year that he was here.
Well, we're running out of time. So I want to end on 2 more questions, if you don't mind. So, I think there are probably a lot of people listening to this and they're like, well, that's really great. There are a couple people who can pick up a guitar or who can sit down at the piano and they could learn, despite their autism, but my kid has 0 musical talent. What do you say to those people? I mean, do you have any advice, any encouraging advice for people who might have a kid who might be another Adam, or like our friend Chi Ling, might be another Chi Ling. And
I think that there is a lot more savants out there. And I think that a lot of it has to do with what we appreciate as a gift. For instance, there's the twins who can tell you what color tie Barb Barker wore on.
Okay.
They're but autistic, and they can tell you what color tie he wore in every single episode of The Price is Right.
I didn't know that. Wow.
And it's a savant skill, people, and I think that we only recognize savant skills that we see as automatically as gifts, but that doesn't mean that it's not a savant skill, and it doesn't mean that we can't use that skill as a vehicle to teach literacy, as a vehicle to teach about what's going on in the world. That we can do that. There's a boy that we knew that drove his parents crazy because he would take yarn and we'd string it back and forth across the living room, and you couldn't walk in the living room because the yarn was it was like you couldn't get it. However, he was making fractals. That means, maybe what we need to do, we know that autistic people love patterns. Let's start teaching, that might be the way to teach him math, is to look at it through the prism of patterns. I think one of the things that I think is really important is that we've been doing a lot of work into seeing how we can make our kids more normal or stuff like that. Whereas the educational system is so uniquely attuned to what used to be known as the typical brain. But the way that we teach came after years and years of learning and adapting and changing and saying, this will work better than that, and this will work better than that. Whereas with autistic people's brains, no one has done that groundwork. For instance, in Los Angeles, there's no curriculum in any of the special day classes. In Massachusetts, where I live now, one of the special ed teachers lives in my building, and they have a curriculum in every class.
When you say curriculum,
there's no curriculum.
No curriculum, period.
Period. They go to the classroom, and if there's a great teacher, they're learning this, and that. If there's not a great teacher, they're not. Sometimes they're just like staring at the walls. I mean, there is no attempt at a curriculum.
I think if I can interrupt for a second, there has to be intentionality. I think there are some people, you hear these stories, the kid picks up a guitar that was in the closet and starts playing, right? For most of the stories I hear, there is intentionality behind introducing the child to the instrument, introducing the child to the music. They have to be in some sort of class. They have to.
Except for one thing, it's the child that we have learned to recognize that this child loves music and that this is a possibility. But very often with other children that are autistic, especially profoundly autistic, we don't necessarily see the savant skill within the obsession that child has. Like if this obsession is putting yarn across the room, we don't necessarily see that as fractals.
Okay, well, that would take some insight, I would have to admit. Insight I wouldn't have. Let me get to my last question though, which is, what do you see happening from here, right? Like, he's in school, he'll graduate considerably more skilled than when he entered, but obviously still extremely dependent. Do you see him becoming a professional musician that kind of, gets different gigs? Do you see him doing something in particular?
This is my dream. My dream is a group home for musicians with profound autism. And the group home will be structured with classes, with rehearsals, we can ask people to write pieces for them, and they can make a living playing the lucrative senior citizen home scene. They can play hospitals, they can play hospice, they can play, you know what I'm saying? But as the home will be structured around, because Adam loves structure. Adam would sit in a corner and never get up. It would occur to him to get up.
Right.
Ever,
he needs to have this and then this and then this. Yeah.
Exactly. And so if we have 6 adults with autism who play different instruments, it's an ensemble. Yeah. It's an ensemble.
I love it. I absolutely love that idea. And I'm going to send my daughter to live there as well, because she'll be the dancer.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
or the group, because all she wants to do all day is listen to music. She can't play anything.
No, I've talked to other people, and like I have a friend whose daughter is autistic and she's an actress. I said, what a great group home if there was a little theater company that's a group home.
I love it.
No,
I love it. The performing arts, autism performing arts group home.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
And so that's we actually went and looked at Rostropovich's old house, which is empty. It's a very weird house, and on 10 acres and only being sold for $345,000.
Where is that?
Well, it's on top of, I think he was a little paranoid about the KGB. It's on top of like a mountain in New York State.
Oh, interesting.
Like you have to like drive up a couple of miles up the mountain, and there's like a safe room in it, and it has those weird Russian bathrooms where they have like 2 toilets in every stall, and one is not a bidet. It's just that that's something that happened during the Soviet Union. That's how they built bathrooms. And so we went to see it. It was fantastic. It's off the grid, but that's not as bad now that there's like solar. And there's, you can put a windmill up there.
Well, keep us in the loop on your dream, because I love that idea so much. And I really want to continue, conversation, on this podcast or elsewhere with NCSA about this topic, because I think it's a little underappreciated. We have a lot of people in our community who really are experiencing tremendous hardship with their children, and their children really don't have any of these splinter skills. But then there's this other sector where really, I see it quite a bit, and it's and I'd love to be able to encourage, more discovery, in this realm. I really do, and more opportunities.
One of
for our kids
is that if we hadn't recognized Adam's splinter skill, his splinters, there's something about his splinter skill that helps him with behavior. It helps him with self-injury, all of that what we do know, because he's been in several studies, is that his focal seizures disappear when he's playing.
Wow. And that's a really interesting point. In fact, last night we just had a webinar all about treatment of severe behaviors with Dr. Arthur Westover. An excellent webinar. If anybody's listening to this, go on our website, ncsautism.org, check out this webinar. And it's one thing we didn't, it was a medical lecture. It wasn't about, behavioral or kind of environmental, treatment, but it's a really good point. Like if their brain is calm and happy and focused, they're much less likely to engage in this sort of anxiety related, frustration related behaviors. It's a really good point. We're out of time. I have another meeting. I have to go because I could talk to you all day, Roseanne. I mean, come on. As I said, my very favorite topic in the world, but I'm so glad that we got to do this. And I hope that we can continue the musical conversation next year, or maybe we could have a private concert, a little online concert or something.
We do go back in the summer to Los Angeles, and so maybe we can.
Oh, I'll meet you down there. Yeah. My family's still in LA, even though I'm in the Bay Area. I'd love that.
Great.
We have a date.
Okay.
I'll see you in person then. Thanks for tuning in to Autism Confidential. If you'd like to learn more, share an idea for an episode, or become a sponsor, please visit us at autismconfidential.org. The views expressed in this podcast are solely those of the individual speakers. Content presented is for informational purposes only, and we do not provide any medical or legal advice.